company dismissed. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Jim Brown's Sky Blue History Podcast. I'm Claudio, of course, the spare part to Jim's finely tuned engine, and tonight's episode comes highly recommended by a name no other than Chris Russell, who contacted us, and he thought we'd have, what about foreign players, overseas players? So before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for a Coventry history topic, feel free to get in touch with us at claryborton@gmail.com. That will go to Jim, and Jim will respond like he always does to all the emails. Now, tonight's subject, overseas players up to 2001. Jim and I will be revealing our top 5. We'd love for you to do the same, so feel free to share your thoughts. Plus, this Friday, we've got a league encounter at Bramall Lane, the home of Sheffield United, and we'll be giving a brief thoughts on that too at the end of the show. So without further ado, hello, Jim, and good evening.
Good evening, Claudio. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm all right, actually. Must admit, international breaks are a bit tiresome, aren't they? I want league football back.
Yeah, it's a strange one when there's only 8 games left. It's like we've got a mini season now, haven't we?
Yes.
To come back to, and looking forward to Friday night.
Oh.
But overseas players. Well, these days there's so many overseas players in the English game. But if you go back 50 or 60 years, and they were very, very rare to have a foreign player, and there was always something a bit special about overseas players. And Coventry City's very first overseas player was a Spaniard called Emilio Aldecoa. And strangely, he came to England in 1937 as a Basque refugee from the Spanish Civil War. And he played. He lived near Buckingham, and he ended up working for English Electric Works at Stafford. He got a few games with Wolves in their wartime league side over a couple of years. But then in 1945, just after the war ended, he joined City, played a few games in that transition season. But then the following season, in 1946-47, he made over 30 appearances, and made a bit of a name for himself as a speedy winger. And then he got the opportunity to go back to Spain. I don't think City ever got a transfer fee for him, but he played in the top flight in Spain for Athletic Bilbao, Real Valladolid. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
The mighty Barcelona, Sporting Gijón and Girona. And what I didn't realize until I went to the Barcelona Museum about 20 years ago, they've got this massive book in there, which is it's handwritten, all their internationals. And our friend Aldecoa is in there. He actually played he got 1 cap for the Spanish national side in 1948. He later managed in Spain and actually came back to Britain in the early 60s and was the assistant manager of Birmingham City.
Wow.
Really, I think it's a really interesting story. And because that was our first Spaniard.
After the war, I mean, there's only a handful, maybe. I mean, obviously, there's the famous German Trautmann at Man City, who, of course, was a prisoner of war who stayed here, didn't he? But I suppose, like you say, there wasn't many foreign players even before the war.
No.
It just didn't happen. Whereas I know in Italy and Spain, they had copious amounts of Argentinians and Uruguayans playing over there, especially in Italy.
Yes.
Because in Italy, they could, the national team at one stage got an Argentinian in it who'd played in the World Cup for Argentina previously. So it was all a bit bizarre.
Oh, that was Omar Savori, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's
Well, yeah,
Yes.
but there was a big connection between Italy and Argentina. A lot of Italians emigrated to
Yeah.
Argentina, didn't they? So they probably got on their father or their grandfather rules, didn't they?
Yeah. It wouldn't be allowed now. That's for sure.
No, no. Although they do allow it in rugby, don't they? You know, you get
Yes.
South Africans and New Zealanders playing for the home nations. Anyway, we digress.
We do.
Yes. Now the next one. This was a South African called Steve McCone. Now, he was given the nickname of Kalamazoo. Now, don't ask me why. I don't know why he was called Kalamazoo. But he was an exciting black African. He was the first black South African to play in the English game. And he was apparently dazzling in training. He used to do all sorts of tricks. He did a lot of training in barefoot, believe it or not. And he was brought over by our friend, the assistant manager. His name's gone. He was assistant manager to Jesse Carver. It'll come to me in a minute. But he excited the management team, but he only played 4 games, and he did score 1 goal, but I think the following season, Harry Warren became the manager, and Harry Warren was old-fashioned English lower division manager, and he didn't fancy McCone at all. You know, in the rough and tumble of the English 3rd division. So he disappeared, but he went on to, he played for Cardiff briefly, and then he went to Holland, and he became a legend in Holland for the name of the club. This is my memory going, Claudio. I tell you, it's dreadful. Anyway, the club in Holland, they named a stand after him. And you can still go there and sit in the Steve McCone stand.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then
Hercules he joined.
Heracles.
That's it.
Heracles of Almelo. That's great. Thank you for reminding me.
And was it George Rayner, the coach? Was it?
George Rayner was the coach, yeah. Thank you. But then the twist in the story is he went to live in the USA, and he became an academic. He took degrees in, I think it was psychology, but then at some stage in his later life, he was accused of murdering his wife.
Blimey. This is a film.
It's too late. The book and the film have been written by a Dutchman, obviously.
Oh.
It's a fantastic story, and I know we're supposed to be covering 36 overseas players, but I think the stories about Aldecoa and McCone are so interesting.
Well, I think Aldecoa, was he the first Spanish player to play in league football over here as well?
Quite possibly.
I think he was, you know. So that's
quite possibly.
We're trendsetters.
Yeah. So he went to Heracles in Holland. He played for Cardiff. I think he played for Barnsley in a single game. He scored for Cardiff against Liverpool in the old 2nd division. Then he went to Barcelona, who loaned him out to Marseille. But he never played a first-team game for Marseille. And then he married, here we go, he married a South African lady in 1961. And they moved to Italy and had a brief spell with Torino. In one match, he scored 4 goals against Verona and was hailed as the new Eusebio, who was then the top African player in the world. I say he went to the USA. He gained 3 degrees. And in 1977, he was arrested and reportedly brutalized on a charge of credit card fraud which Steve McCone told me was fabricated. And the day after his release, police arrested him and charged him with assaulting his wife. And he was found guilty and served 9 years in jail. And he always maintained his innocence. So I got that, at first I got that slightly wrong. He didn't kill his wife. He just was accused of assaulting her. But he told me that he was framed. Fascinating story.
When did you meet him, Jim?
I didn't. I had a video call with him in the 90s, in the mid 90s, and then a few years later, somebody sent me some information that he'd had this film premiere in Amsterdam, and the film of his life had been made, and he was there at the premiere.
Now, wouldn't it be great to get that film and put it in the archive?
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just?
That's got to be on YouTube.
I'll put it on my to-do list. That is a great idea. Great idea. So moving on from Steve McCone, another South African came to Coventry in 1958, a goalkeeper, Arthur Lightning. He was the best goalkeeper we'd had since Reg Matthews. He played 150 games and more for Coventry, and he was, I think he was signed at the same time as Ronnie Farmer in the 4th Division promotion season, and he was a regular right up. When Jimmy Hill arrived, he liked Arthur. Yeah, Arthur's going to stay, but there was a problem, and he was a bit of a bad lad.
Right.
He was in court for receiving stolen goods, and the following day, Jimmy Hill accepted a bid of £11,000 from Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
He played for them for one season, and at the end of the season, the club gave him permission to go to a family wedding in South Africa. And he sailed off, and he never came back.
So was he guilty of the?
Oh yeah, he was found guilty of receiving stolen goods. Yeah. I think somebody told me he was always flogging stuff in the City dressing room. Like knocked off shoes and stuff. But yeah, so he was at Middlesbrough, gave him permission, and he never came back. And a travel agent later told an investigative reporter, he said, "Oh, I thought it was strange that he only booked a single ticket."
I'm noticing on your notes, he made 150 appearances. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I know because my programs, he's in there a lot. Obviously, as the main man in goal.
Yeah, and he was on the cover for the 61-2 season.
Right.
No, sorry, the 60-61 season. There's a goalkeeper diving on the cover.
Oh yes,
that's Arthur. Yeah,
brilliant.
So that's 2 South Africans. Then we've got a 21-year gap, by my reckoning, until the next foreigner.
Yeah, I think what we probably need to stress here, you couldn't get foreign players to come in because of all sorts of work permits and things. It was really hard.
Right.
And league regulations by the FA on the foreign player rule and everything.
That's right.
It was very.
That's right.
It wasn't easy.
And I think there was a. I think it changed about 78 time when the Argentinian pair came over to play for Tottenham, Ardiles and Ricky Villa.
Yeah.
And then soon afterwards, Ipswich brought in the Dutchman, didn't they? Arnold Muren and Franz Tyson.
Yeah, there was a Sheffield United player, Alex, another Argentinian.
Alex Sabella, yeah.
Tarantino at Birmingham City.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Roger Van Gaal came from Belgium. Well, he was a Belgian, but he came from FC Cologne. And he was a top player, Belgian international, tricky winger, a bearded winger, and but he never really settled.
No. But
City
he
were,
was, as if you
City were,
remember, against Forest in the the European Cup the year before, he was magnificent
yeah,
against Forest, and he scored a lot of goals for
he
Cologne.
did. Yeah, I've never found out what really happened to him.
Well, there's rumours.
He only was only there about a year, I think, 18 months at the most. I can't remember, but he played about 30 games.
Yeah, something like that. Well, the rumours were he was messing about with other people's wives, apparently.
Oh, well, trust you to know that.
Yes, uh, some, maybe some of the top coaching staff's wives. Yeah, something like that. There was something they weren't happy with his behaviour, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, I do remember when we signed him. I've got a feeling it was about 150 grand. Was it?
Yeah, it was an excitable signing.
It
Yeah,
was, yeah. And I think he didn't impress early on. And I think Gordon Mills said, "Oh, give him a chance. He needs a pre-season training or whatever." Um, but he was the first million Deutschmark player when he joined Cologne in '76. He showed flashes, and he obviously was his technical ability was very good. But he lasted about 8 months, and he went back to Belgium, joined Antwerp in a swap deal for our next foreigner, who's Rudi Kaiser.
who moved into Roger Van Gaal's house in Leamington.
Oh, okay. Whereabouts in Leamington?
I don't know whereabouts, but it was in Leamington.
Yeah.
It was obviously the club's rented accommodation, I reckon.
Yes. Yeah. So Rudi Kaiser was another winger, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And he made quite an impact at first. He was Dutch, wasn't he? He wasn't Belgian. He made quite an impact when he arrived in 1981. But he, according to me, only made 19 appearances, scored 3 goals, and then sort of dropped out of the picture.
we weren't getting much luck, were we? These foreign players in the early days.
No,
In the new era of foreign players.
but as we go through this, Claudio, I think that becomes the central theme of this. It does. We've not had that many great foreign players join us certainly up to 2001.
That's right.
So move on a couple of years, and Bobby Gould signed a Croatian or a Yugoslavian goalkeeper, as it was then, called Radi Avramovic.
Yes. Famously sacked at half time against Stoke City, apparently.
Yes. He's Bobby Gould's not on Radi's Christmas card list, I think.
No. And that reminds me, I need to give him a call, as he said, didn't he? To give him a call in March. I'm going to message him.
Yes, and well, we can get the whole story from Bobby, can't we?
Yeah, but he was a great keeper for Notts County. They love him at Notts County, but he just couldn't do it for us, could he? It was accident waiting to happen virtually every game.
Well, yeah, but isn't it fair to say that he was part of the team that took us to the 4th place in the first division? That 1983, didn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was. Yeah.
So he can't be that bad. But I do remember, I can still see that goal. I think it was the second goal against Stoke at Highfield Road, where he just let it through his hands.
Yes.
But that was his final game, I think. Bobby.
Was it Perry Suckling came in? I think it would have. I think it was Perry, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Raddy was he kept goal against Liverpool in the 4-0. He was the after he arrived. I think Perry started the season in goal, and then Raddy came in about September and took over the gloves. And up until that Stoke City game, he was the flavour of the month.
Yeah.
So the following year, Bobby went to Holland to buy Martin Jol.
Yeah, I like Martin Jol. When he stayed fit, he was a great player. I used to think.
Yeah. How often was he fit though?
Yeah, was it with his back? Was it his back? Was a problem or?
Yeah, I suspect it was.
Had he been to the Albion as well?
Yeah,
though?
he played about 70 games for the Albion over 3 or 4 years. And he played for Bayern Munich before he came to England. So it was no slouch. And the Baggies were in the first division at that time as well. So, he wasn't...
Oh, it was a good signing, but he just was never fit, was he? He just seemed to struggle. But when he played, he was great for us.
Yeah, he... I'm just looking at his record. He started... He played in that 84-5 season. He played 15 games, 15 league games, and he played in the last... he played in the last game that Bobby Gould was in charge.
Oh, really?
At Luton. He was subbed. Now, I don't know if he was injured, but he was subbed, and he never played for us again.
See, I don't think we had a player like him until Stuart Robson turned up at the club. And he'd got the same problem with injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're just...
Martin had a very successful managerial career, didn't he? He was manager at Tottenham.
Is it Celtic or Rangers? Did he go up there?
No, he went to Fulham.
I don't know why I thought.
Yeah, he was at Fulham. He played 2 seasons and a bit at Fulham. He was the manager, and the year that he got sacked, he was sacked after 13 games, and they were bottom, and they went down that season.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a stocky midfielder, wasn't he? Ball-winning midfielder.
Yeah, yeah.
So talking of stocky midfielders, the next man on our list, it was 6 years before the next one, 1990. We had a star of the Uruguayan national team, Jose Perdomo. What a player.
You know what? He completely commanded the centre circle, didn't he?
Yeah. He didn't go out of it, did he?
No. Was he the one who hit the free kick at Villa?
Yeah.
Yeah. He could ping a ball. He didn't move. He reminded me of those wrestlers used to get on World of Sport. He had like a pot belly, didn't he? It was weird.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think, how did we sign him in the first place? I don't know how that even came about.
Well, he'd appeared for his country at the 1990 World Cup. And I think, according to my notes, John Sillett fancied a stylish playmaker and took him on trial. But he was aware of Jose's long-term ankle injury. Here we go again. But he had a pedigree. He was in the Uruguay national team that won the Copa America in '87. He was he in the final that year. He got sent off, so showed his dark side. But he was voted third. He was voted third in the South American Footballer of the Year award.
Oh, he was a class player. He just didn't move, did he?
Yeah. So he moved to Europe in '89, played for Genoa. He was always criticised for his lack of pace, and he was fairly aggressive. But he did. He joined us in the August, I think. In the May, he'd scored a spectacular goal at Wembley against England.
Yeah.
Have a look on YouTube for that, guys. It's some goal.
Yeah, it's just because after us, he hardly played. I think he had the same problem everywhere he went. I think they just thought he was a bit lazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like the equivalent of a really good Sunday League player, where at half time he'd be having a fat cigar or something before he'd come out for the second half, because he just strolled around, didn't he? It was unusual for us, especially in the English game, to see that.
Yeah. But I've got a note here. He ended up in Argentina with a club called Gimnasia, top division side, and he was always a threat from a dead ball. And his free kick goal for Gimnasia against their local rivals Estudiantes in 1992 had such an effect on the crowd that it caused a seismograph at the local observatory to register a low intensity seismic event.
Like an earthquake.
It's known locally as the earthquake goal.
Oh, brilliant. That is brilliant.
But I do remember seeing him at Villa Park. Yeah. And that free kick. Yeah. So at the same time that Jose Perdomo was at Coventry, earlier that summer, City had been on tour in Zimbabwe, and John Sillett had spotted our future Peter and Love.
Yeah.
And it took a year for Peter to get to England, and by that time John Sillett had gone, and Terry Butcher was in charge. But Peter and Love in my opinion, was one of the finest players we've had in the last 30, 40 years. He really is. Some of his goals are just out of this world. And he made over almost 200 appearances for the club. Memories of him?
Oh, at Liverpool, scoring up there. It was just the Norwich goal, which you see regular old match of day footage, dancing through their defence. Yeah. It's just so quick. His shirt, I think the shirt's behind me somewhere, where it'd be flapping in the wind. It was so huge, wasn't it? It was, and it wasn't much to him, was there? But he was great, quick, rapid, skillful. He was a big favourite, and you just wanted him. In the days of wingers, he was just so exciting, and he was always. I think he was linked with moves all the time, wasn't he? But he never went, did he? Anywhere really?
No. Well, according to Bobby Gould, City were going to sell him when Bobby resigned in the toilets at Loftus Road after that 5-1 defeat.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah,
that was the reason he resigned, because they're going to sell Peter and Love, and he stayed on for another 4 years.
Yeah, but no, it's so exciting, and it's the sort of play you just love to see. Which,
my memories, best memories of him, obviously the Liverpool, but the goal at West Brom in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Then the two goals at Wimbledon in that vital game.
Season,
yeah. And that same season, I think, the previous season at White Hart Lane, I think I've spoken about this before, when he turned the young Sol Campbell into a gibbering wreck with his pace, and Sol Campbell was substituted before half time. Yeah. To me, he's a true legend.
Legend. He's in our top 5. He's definitely in there for me.
Yeah. So, a year on, we sold our star player Kevin Gallagher to Blackburn Rovers, And in part exchange, we got some money and Roy Wegerle.
Yeah, I'd have kept Kevin Gallagher.
I think the bank manager was probably knocking on the door.
I used to really like Kevin Gallagher, and Roy Wegley, bit of an enigma, really. He got some nice footwork. I mean, he played a lot of games for us, but he I don't know, he never did it for me, really.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's
You could see the talent oozing out of him, couldn't you?
Yeah, but it's a player that almost seemed to play a lot better when he was at other clubs when he came to ours. You know, when you saw footage of him playing for Blackburn, was it at Chelsea as well? I'm trying to think where he went now. Whoever he played for, he always looked better for them than whenever he played for us. And he kind of thinking that's the player I thought we were signing, but we never got that player at all. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I think his best days were at QPR. He was, I think, in 1991, he was third top scorer in the first division.
Yeah,
And Blackburn, he didn't do much at Blackburn. He only played 20 odd games for them. As I wrote in his sort of profile a few years ago, on his day, Roy could dazzle with the best of them, but too often he was anonymous.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at further down the list, and the next 5 are pretty anonymous as well.
Right. Well, another Bobby Gould, when Bobby Gould's second spell, he brought in Detsy Krasinski. What do you remember about him?
Not a lot. I've got to say that.
He came from Wimbledon, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. I think he'd gone back to Germany, although he was Polish. He went after Wimbledon. He went to Germany, and Bobby persuaded him to come back. And a few weeks after he joined us. Bobby resigned, and Detsy's short-term contract was terminated. Last heard of in West London as a painter and decorator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. That's a bit cliche, isn't it? Polish painter and decorator in London. That sounds he's just making that up now.
Yeah. He played only a handful of games, didn't he? And then we had the arrival of Big Ron, of course.
Yeah.
Phil Neal didn't buy any foreigners. Phil Neal only bought ex-Bolton players, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't like foreigners.
No. So Big Ron came in, and one of his first signings was an Australian goalkeeper, which was a strange one. Always thought it was a strange one for me, because we had Oggy and we had Jonathan Gould, and he brought in John Filan from Cambridge United.
And he's been knocking around for years, hasn't he? Really, he stayed in the Football League for a long time.
Yeah. He was a good goalkeeper. And he went, didn't he go to Blackburn as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jim, he's one of those forgotten players, I think, as well. And if people were to list goalkeepers, say 5 keepers, I think he'll be one that'd be forgotten.
Yes.
For some reason.
Yes, I think you're right. He made over 400 appearances in the Football League. Blackburn, Cambridge, and then he only made 18 appearances for City.
Yeah, he must have obviously brought in as a number 2 to Oggy then, because Oggy was still playing, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah. Didn't Oggy break his leg?
Ah, right. Yeah.
I've got a feeling that Ron didn't fancy Jonathan Gould that much. But John Filan finished his English career in the Premier League with Wigan.
Right. So it's not that long ago, I suppose.
2007.
Yeah. Well, for us, it's not long ago. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah, and then he went back to Sydney. I don't know where he is. I've never tried to find him, with the Former Players Association. It's a mystery. Anybody knows? Let us know, please. John Filan.
Yes.
So Ron's next foreigner, Kobe Jones.
Right, yeah. This is when FIFA were trying to promote. I know this was after the World Cup. They were desperately trying to promote the American game, the US game, and they're basically trying to get clubs in Europe to sign American players to basically get the players around the world, so you get the publicity and build it all up. We ended up with Kobe Jones. There's only two or three decent American players anyway, really, at the time.
And Kobe Jones went on to make over 100 appearances for the USA, didn't he?
Yeah, but I never ever thought much to him. He's a budget Peter Unlove, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, at least we didn't sign Alexi Lalas like we almost did. So that was because that was the other guy.
Yeah, I've got that wrong. You know, it wasn't Ron that bought in Kobe Jones. It was Phil Neal.
Was it Phil?
Yeah. I think Brian Richardson's got some good stories about, Alexei Lalas and Kobe. Kobe, I think Kobe was second choice. Lalas
he was
first choice.
But I think he preferred.
But he did get that. I do remember that debut he made. He won the penalty, didn't he? That against Leeds at Highfield Road.
Right.
It was never a penalty. You watch on YouTube, it's never a penalty. It's probably the first time that Kobe had actually had somebody physical, go anywhere near him, and he just fell over. He looked reasonably good, but the last game he played was actually Phil Neal's last game in charge, that 2-0 win at Crystal Palace, and Kobe scored that day, his second goal for the club. And he returned to America that summer. Spent 11 years at LA Galaxy. He won 164 caps.
I'll tell you what, Jim. If me and you were living in the US, then we'd have won close to 150, I reckon. Maybe a bit harsh. Yeah. But the thing is, it's a bit similar to the women's international football nowadays. I wouldn't say so much now, but say about 10 years ago, where there was a pool of players and it was the same players they could only select from. So you've got players with hundreds of caps, really, because the pool of players wasn't that big. So I think with the US team at the time, that was all they had, and they're the players that got picked. Basically, there's nobody else. The league was tiny.
Yes, and they did have a lot of foreigners in their league, didn't they? A lot of Slavs went over there.
Yeah, my old schoolmate he played for Wolves, Paul Doughty, and he went over there and played in the American League, the MLS as it was then.
Right, I'm going to skip on a bit here because by this time, 1995, everybody was bringing in foreigners, weren't they?
Yeah.
And so many of them were flops. And we had in '95 we bought Isaias from Benfica, the Brazilian who flattered to deceive. Neil Lamptey was supposed to be the new Pele or something, wasn't he?
African Pele.
He was going to be something else, and he couldn't get in the team really, could he?
No.
And then we signed
awful player.
The Ukrainian Alexei Evtashok.
He had a shocking game. Was it a Man United had that shocking game? He has just some game was dreadful. I think it sounds like a drink, doesn't it? Aftershock. I think that's.
Yeah, and there's different spellings of it. Whether you can take the Ukrainian spelling or the Russian spelling, and he's still the only Ukrainian to play for us. 3 appearances he made, and they realised it was a dreadful mistake.
Yeah.
Another one in the same category was Reggie Janot,
He was never fit, was he?
Belgian. No.
Yeah.
And he died a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Yeah, quite young, really.
Yeah, he made 4 appearances. You know, these guys cost. You know, they cost money, just money wasted.
Yeah, we were desperately trying to compete with other clubs and making a right hash of it, weren't we?
We were scouting a lot in Europe, and the next one that came along was George Boating, of course.
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, he was.
But he hit the ground running, didn't he? That game at Liverpool, was it the cup game where it was dynamite in that midfield?
You're right. He had a really impressive start, didn't he?
Oh, we couldn't believe it. We thought, what a find this is out of nowhere.
Yeah, he was like the enforcer, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's great player. And very popular with the fans as well, wasn't he? Very popular.
Yeah. I always thought that first season, I think he only played about 15 or maybe 18 games in 97-8. We saw the best of him. I always thought the second season he fizzled out, particularly after Dion Dublin. I think they were big mates.
Yeah.
After Dublin, I didn't think George's heart was there. And he had a very bad spell in the league in mid-season there. And then of course the story was he was tapped up by Dion and John Gregory, wasn't it?
Still, it was past that great victory at Villa Park.
Yeah, he was.
Scored a great goal.
And the 3-0 win at Filbert Street in the Cup that same season.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. We chipped in with some very good goals that season. Next on my list, 1997, Magnus Hedman.
Yeah, top keeper.
Very good keeper. Bided his time. When Oggy was dropped, he stepped in, and the timing of his arrival in the first team coincided with us going on that fabulous run in 97-98, where we should have got to the Cup semi-final. Blew it at Bramwell Lane in the penalty shootout. Magnus, I think, was excellent. I always thought, and I think it came to fruition, that the relegation season, he sometimes in the air he wasn't great. And if I was to list my top Coventry goalkeepers, he wouldn't be in the top 4 or 5.
You know, I always used to think he was great at long distance shots. He wasn't as good as Oki at coming out, and he used to get beat quite easily when players were running through. Whereas his long distance saves, brilliant at diving. And I thought Oggy was the other way around. Oggy was fantastic at coming out and collecting the ball off people. He was so brave and used to get caught with long shots for some reason.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought Oggy had the bigger presence definitely at the time in goal. Yeah.
And of course he was part of the relegation team, wasn't he? And he stayed on. He stayed on after we got relegated, and there was always rumours of a big money move. But then he got a lot of stick from the fans that first season down, I seem to remember. Wasn't there a fan came on the pitch at Preston and questioned his commitment?
Well, he fell out of love of football, and I know he suffered badly with mental illness because we launched the two-tone kit against Tranmere, and I was in the Leamington Warwick supporters sponsored the game, and I was on the pitch for that game.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and Magnus was the guest of honour. So
he was. You know why he was the guest of honour?
You invited him, did you?
I did. I sat next to him for lunch.
I was there in the same room.
Were you?
Yes. And he spoke, didn't he, about the mental illness and
Yeah,
recovering and coming back from the depths of despair. So
yeah,
that was very brave. I tell you what, I had a photo next to him. He's a big bloke.
he
He's
is.
taller
Yeah,
than you think, actually. You know,
yeah. And one thing we can't take away from Magnus, he is the club's most capped player.
yeah,
38 caps with Sweden whilst he was with the club, and his successor is now our goalkeeper, isn't he, Oliver
yeah,
Dobin?
that's
Yeah.
right.
Next up, another Scandinavian, Danish, Martin Johansson.
Yeah, now you see him, now you don't.
Yeah, I just remember it being a busy midfield player with ginger hair.
Yeah,
Is that all right? He only played a couple of sub appearances, I think. Moving on, Carl Lightbourne,
yeah,
same year. 97, 98, that was the 97, 98, 99. Those were the years when we really went mad in Europe. I think everybody our European scouts saw, he signed.
Well, I think Gordon Strachan regretted it. I think he even said so in interviews where the recruitment for 18 months before we got relegated was wrong, totally wrong. And I
Yeah.
think he alluded to some of the foreign players, which was the problem. They just got it
Yes,
wrong.
and Kyle came. He wasn't one of those. He came from Walsall,
Yeah,
and his agent was a mad keen Coventry City fan,
yeah,
and he was largely responsible for the transfer, and he didn't really come off, did he? There were flashes of it, but he struggled to get a game, to be honest, because Dion was
yeah.
buzzing, Huckabee was buzzing, and Noel Whelan was there as well. So, you had to be something special. And he went to Stoke City, I think.
Yeah. That's a poor
And
sign. We didn't
he
need it.
later, I don't know if he's still the manager, but he was the manager of Bermuda.
Oh, that's a good job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
isn't it?
he is a Bermudian, so
Yeah. But it was a signing we didn't need to make at the time.
you're right. You're right. Well, yes, I know his agent very well, so I won't say any more.
Get him on here.
Yes. But then the same year, we signed two other Scandinavians, and they, to me, were top notch. Roland Nielsen, probably the best right back I've ever see play for Coventry City, and Trond Solfet, a very accomplished midfield player, who I always was sad to see him go. I really like Solfet, but I think Solfet lost his place to Boateng, didn't he?
Yeah, well, Nilsson is a Rolls Royce of a player, as they say. Sweden had some classy players in that period, though. And he's just
Well,
one of many.
They've got some classy players in the modern era, haven't they?
Yeah, but yeah,
I didn't realise it. I saw their lineup the other day, and there was no Gyökeres, but they had up front with Isak,
Kulusevski
Anthony
was.
Elanga.
Oh, did they?
Anthony Elanga.
Yeah.
They've got some tremendous attacking players. Well, I say Kulusevski as well.
But they should be doing.
Anyway, we digress. Roland, I only ever saw Roland make one mistake in a Coventry shirt, and that was in that fatal game at Bramall Lane in the replay, where he let the ball go under his foot. The ball touched his boot but went under it, and we conceded a corner in the 90th minute, from which the Blades equalised.
Was it Chris Morgan? Was it the defender who scored?
David Holdsworth.
David Holdsworth. Oh no, not the defender. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get our own back on Friday.
Next on the list, still in '98, John Aloisi.
Yeah, I like John Aloisi. I did. I thought it was fairly decent, and I don't think he got enough breaks at the club. Actually, I don't think he played enough.
I think you're right. I think you're right. He scored for fun for Portsmouth, hadn't he?
Yeah,
but he's another one. You begin to wonder, why did we buy him? I think it was not long after Dion had gone, but we had Noel Whelan. We still had Huckabee.
Yeah.
It's a strange one.
Yeah. What about when did Moldovan come in as well?
Oh goodness, I've forgotten Moldovan.
Left him off the list. I was thinking, what about Moldovan? I just noticed, where's Moldovan? Yeah.
Why haven't I got him on the list? 1998. Just before Christmas, 97, he came, didn't he? Again, why did we buy him? You almost sense, looking back, that Brian Richardson was almost trying to do some player trading.
Yeah.
Which he did successfully with Moldovan, because he sold him for more than he paid for him.
A bit like Robert Yarney.
Yeah, yes.
I sat 2 rows away from him in that friendly,
Did you?
You sat in the stand, and me and my mate was sitting there going, I can't believe we signed Robert Yarney. This is amazing. What a sign. Possibly the best fullback in the world at the time.
Yeah, his wife didn't fancy Coventry though, did she?
No. She went keen on the 3 tons.
Do you know, Moldovan came just as we were hitting top form that season. Dion and Darren were really on top of their game. And they were both in the England squads. Moldovan, he got seven starts. And I thought when he played, he looked, apart from Bramall Lane, where he missed that chance,
Yeah,
I always thought he looked a really useful striker. And to watch him for Romania, that in France '98 when he scored against England, he looked hot.
Well, he was a goal scorer who, a bit like the Lineker mould, wasn't he? In the box, get the ball in the box. And we never used to get when he played, we never used to get the ball in the box to him. He was a 6-yard box striker.
No, that's right.
And he rarely got it in there. We didn't play to his strengths when he played.
No, and of course we'll always remember him for that goal, won't we?
Oh, he's a legend, isn't he?
Yeah.
What did it cost him to come to Legends Day?
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Love it. So just moving on, another one from Europe, Philippe Clement.
Yeah.
Highly rated Belgian international.
Yeah.
Injury prone, wasn't he?
Yeah, we were good at signing injury prone foreigners. That's another one.
And then,
oh dear, my countryman.
Your countryman.
Absolutely useless from Udinese.
Do you know I've missed another one of I've missed Nutsu off the list as well.
It's further down. I can see him.
Oh, is he? Anyway, Giacchini was the first. Giacchini. Is it Stefano Giacchini?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came. Oh, well, you can talk about him.
Absolutely useless. I think between him and Nutso, you couldn't make a football player. Between the two of them, I don't understand the signings at the time. I mean, it's almost smacks of desperation, some of these signings at the time.
Well, I think he was on loan, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I've got a feeling it all went out of control, and I don't even think Gordon Strachan had anything to do with all this. I think they were just bringing in players willy-nilly.
Well, they had Ray Clark as their European scout, didn't they? And the stories were that he was driving thousands of miles every week, watching, players across Europe, and if he saw them, he'd sign them, or
Jesus.
tell Brian to sign them.
Where was he watching them?
It was European based. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, the next one was we got it right.
Hmm.
We got it right. After the duds of Clement and Giacchini and Martin Johansson, Mo Cognac arrived.
Yeah.
Bit of a slow starter. Got some injuries. God, that word keeps on coming up, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's a war hero. This guy wasn't afraid of any. He wasn't afraid of anything. Was Big Mo, was he?
No. And I always remember he came on as a substitute at Tottenham on his debut, and he put in this hellish tackle on Stefan Everson and sent him into an advertising hoarding. And Gordon Strachan said after the game, "I wouldn't like to clean out his cage."
That's a great quote,
isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, one of my biggest memories, I should have said biggest memories, was the the flasher who came on the pitch and went straight up to Mo. Don't you remember that?
And poor old Mo, he barely had a start in the Premier League. It wasn't until we got relegated, and actually after Strachan had gone, that he won a regular place in the team. And he was, that first season down, he was a rock. He earned his reputation as being a legend.
Yeah, well, I think that was the issue when we went down. Defensively, we were poor, and the fact that he didn't get many games is ridiculous. Well, I think we just struggled in defence all season. I don't know.
Yeah, we had Paul Williams and Richard Shaw and Gary Breen, didn't we?
Yeah, I was never a big fan of Gary Breen. Too soft.
Yeah. So, Mo only played 8 games in that in the relegation season.
Oh, there you go.
Which says it all, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And he didn't play after we lost at home to Everton in January. He didn't play again, and I think he had injuries.
It must have done.
And so next up, Jean-Guy Wallem.
Oh yeah, another
European flop. I think he'd won the league with Lens, hadn't he?
Yeah.
But he carried the can for that 5-1 home defeat against Newcastle, which, when you look at it again, it wasn't his fault at all. We were just useless all over the pitch. And then another Swede, Thomas Antonelius.
Blimey. See, just forget about these names.
I know. He was the one that changed his name when he got married.
What to?
Oh, goodness.
What, to his wife's surname?
Yeah, I think so. Which, it's entitled to do that, but it does seem a bit strange, doesn't it? Unless she was a celebrity. His name was Gustafsson.
Gustafsson.
He changed his name to his married sister's name.
Right, that's weird.
Yeah, but he went to Copenhagen. He played very. Oh, he got cruciate ligaments playing for Sweden. That's right.
Right.
He never recovered. Next up, then we got two legends, Chipo and Hadji.
Yeah,
true legends.
Yeah, I mean, Hadji was a great sign, African Player of the Year the season before, wasn't he?
He was,
and he was just a really good player, and Chipo as well, who kind of went under the radar a lot, really, but he was great. The pair of them, when they were on fire, but they never seemed too keen away from home, did they? They were great at home. I always thought they used to go missing in a lot of away matches, but in front of our own crowd, which at the end of the day, that's where most of our fans would have seen him play. They were absolutely fantastic.
They were in a Chippo over 120, 130 appearances.
Yeah, and he stuck around, didn't he? So
Yeah, he did. And I've got to say, I said it about Nielsen. You know, one of the best ever players. Okay, didn't make that many appearances, about 90 appearances, but Hadji's got in the same bracket.
yeah.
You know, he's just a tremendous footballer. But you know, you got to realise that we got relegated with him in the team.
Well, I still can't believe we never won an away game the season before when you got the likes of Robbie Keane and Hadji and everybody
Yeah.
else who's playing. I just find, to me, it's the most baffling thing ever
Yeah,
that happened with that team, with all that firepower.
I know.
Strange.
So back to Scandinavia for Runa Norman.
Yeah. Yes.
I think he was probably the first sick note, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right. He was never fit, was he?
No. He'd come back, play one game, flatter to deceive, and then disappear again.
I think he decided not to play, you know. It wouldn't surprise me. He wouldn't be the first player to do that. He just didn't fancy it.
And another one who were put in the same bracket, Laurent Delorge.
Yeah.
You know, he only started 23 games, and he had the talent, but he was highly rated. You know, he's going to be the top Belgian player, and did nothing really, did he?
No.
Another Belgian, Cedric Roussel.
Yeah.
He hit it off big time with Robbie Keane for a while, didn't he?
He did.
But without Robbie, he struggled. I think we did.
He wasn't very. He hadn't got much pace, had he? From what I remember, he was all right, but yeah,
he's another one that died suddenly, isn't he? Israel Zuniga.
Yeah. Now you see, I actually liked this signing when we signed him, and he looked great when you saw what in those days the footage you could find. But yet again, I think he struggled with the language, didn't he? He didn't look right when he played. He was all over the place, a bit headless. And yet again, he was a box striker, wasn't he? We never gave him the ball. So when he played 29 games, I'm amazed he played 29 games, to be honest.
We got 3 goals, though. You know,
yeah,
pathetic, really. 4 goals, pathetic, really.
Yeah. Why is he playing 29 games? That's
Well, 18 of them were substitutes.
Oh, right. Well, there you go then.
Last but not least, another South American. We switched our scout must have moved to South America as we suddenly started buying these Hondurans, Ivan Guerrero. Nothing to say about him, really. He was a fullback, wasn't he? The only thing I remember about him is we played Man United. I think it must have been the relegation season. And Guerrero was left back against Beckham, and they just kept on putting over his head, and he was just, out, he just had no class at all. 6 starts. Terrible.
I mean,
shall we quickly come up with our top 5?
We will do. I'm saying, Jim, you look at 97 to 2000, you can see where the decline was happening with some of the players who were signing from abroad, and they weren't working. And
they weren't.
And a huge wage bill because they wouldn't have been cheap either.
No, and a lot of them were cost, £1 million or more.
Yeah, which
was a lot of money in those days.
All right then. So, in reverse order. We won't have to give a reason. We'll just, because we'd be here for another night, wouldn't we?
Yeah. You go first, or am I going first?
Oh, well, in 5th place, I've put Magnus Hedman.
Right.
Who have you gone for?
I have gone for George Boateng.
Oh, interesting. I must say to people listening or watching, depending if you put it on YouTube, these are from players that I've seen play. So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
That's the only way of doing it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
In fourth place, I've put Nielsen.
I put Mo Cognac.
Ah, it's all a matter of opinion, as they say.
It is, yeah.
In third place, I've put Haji.
In third place, I put Peter and Love.
In second place, I've put Mo Cognac.
I've put Haji.
And my number one is Peter Unlove.
My number one is Roland Nielsen.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so we got 4 out of the 5 we agree on.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, your Boateng is still a good shout.
Yeah. As I said, I was never convinced with Magnus. But hey ho.
Yes. So before we sign off, very, very briefly, Friday, I'm going up to Bramall Lane. I don't know if you are this week.
No.
I'm hoping we just don't lose, is what I'm hoping for. If you nick a point, I'll be more than happy. What about you, Jim?
I've got it down as one of the games we'll lose.
Okay.
I think we're going to lose 2, possibly 3 out of the 8 games. And hopefully we'll still have enough points, because I think 68 will be enough to get us in the playoffs. So I think we'll lose, but I'm hoping we won't. And if we play like we played against Sunderland, I think there's every chance we'll get something.
Yeah, and amazingly, it's on ITV4 live as well, which is incredible.
It is.
I'll be looking forward to that. Be interesting what the lineup's going to be. I'm hoping he won't change it. It should keep it the same from the Sunderland game. I think there's no need to change it, is there?
No. We don't know about Jack Redoni's injury, do we, either?
No,
but I think it would be a bit unfair to drop Alan or Torp to fit Jack in.
And it is a bit risky in a game against Sheffield United where they're going to be up for it with his shoulder. Yeah. I think it's too much of a risk. It's not worth it. Much
as I'd like to see him start, I don't think they will take Norman Bassett anywhere near Bramall Lane on Friday night.
That would be funny. Just have him on the bench just to goad their fans up. Just have him running up and down the line, warming up. Well, thank you for those listening for this episode, which is episode number 30. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, and thank you, Chris Russell, again for your great ideas. We've got a few ideas from Chris, and we'll be visiting them over the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting because you could have done a feature on 4 or 5 of these players on their own, actually, on their careers.
Yes, we could. We
might even come back to that in other episodes. We could.
Yeah. And the other thing to mention, of course, is that we almost had a star of the League 2 promotion season join us tonight, and he's very keen to do the podcast with us. So I won't mention his name, but we'll be hearing from him in a few weeks' time.
Brilliant. So I'll before we go, if you want to contact Jim, it's claryborton@gmail.com. Is that correct, Jim? I have got that right.
Yeah.
And with your suggestions, and we'll try and talk about them. So I'll say, well, are we back next week? I think we are, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week with episode 31. So good night, and I'm off.
Yeah. Good night, Claudio.
company dismissed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Lovely.